All right, the meeting is called to order. Let's all stand and pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Tara, can you do a roll call, please?
Yes.
Campbell.
Here.
Garbett.
Here.
Barnhart. Here. Baki.
Here.
And we have 2 members present tonight. We'll start with Amber. Amber was actually sick. She did message me today to let me know she wasn't feeling well. Up to you guys if you want to entertain a motion to excuse.
I'll make a motion to excuse.
I'll second.
The motion has been properly made by Kelly Campbell with Brooklyn Barnhart seconding. Tara, roll call.
Campbell.
Yes.
Garbett.
Yes.
Barnhart. Yes. Baki.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. And then we also have Mr. Mays, who is out this evening too as well. He did have a death in the family. So again, entertain a motion to excuse if you so choose.
I'll make a motion. Second.
The motion has been made by Bink Garbett with Andy Baki seconding. Tara, roll call, please.
Campbell.
Yes.
Garbett.
Yes.
Barnhart. Here. Baki.
Yes, I'm sorry. Did you get up for?
Yeah, Baki.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes. All right, we have a special presentation tonight from our chief from the firehouse, Chief Rocky. I know we've had some big movements within the firehouse, so Chief, you want to step up front and kind of tell us what's going on, and I'll join you.
So over the course of the last couple of months, we did a promotion process at the department. It consisted of, basically consisted of, there was an exam that everyone took, and it pertained to their EMS skills, fire skills, things pertain to our district questions. I tried to trick them up on some questions on our district, familiarization with all of our equipment, what we carry, where we carry, blah, 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 some of our SOGs and what have you. So it wasn't a popularity contest by any means. It was looking for the candidates with the experience and those that I had, scored best on the test and did the best through my interview process. So there's 4 of them tonight. And basically their roles, 3 of them will be promoted to lieutenants, 1 of them to assistant chief. So hopefully these guys are going to take some of the burden off my shoulders. There's a lot of tasks that I do every day that I can assign to them guys, and they can handle the role. And I'm more than confident they'll all be fine. So I'll just go up here. I've got the fonts for their helmets. They didn't bring their helmets because they're too big and bulky to mess with. So, but the first one is Matt Dyer. Matt is a full-time firefighter, advanced EMT. He came to us in 2019, but he had 20 plus years experience prior to coming to us. Kelly Jones knows, and Mayor as well. He works a lot of hours. I have to run him out of the station. So he's a really good guy. I would argue that he's probably the best advanced EMT in Southern Ohio. And I'll argue anybody with that. So I have a lot of faith in him. He's going to do a lot of good stuff for us with this promotion. So Matt, I got your helmet at the building. We can put this on.
All right.
Matt, there you go, brother.
Thank you.
Good luck. Just stand up there. Do you want to do them individually? Okay. The next one is Kyle Cornett. Kyle came in 2018 out off the street as a volunteer for a short amount of time. Came on to the part-time reign, and he works a full-time rotation as a part-time employee, so he works a lot of hours. He's a very eager young man, and he's in the middle of an advanced class as we speak, but he's always coming to me, drumming me, wanting, let's do this, let's do that. So I know he wants to grow. For the department to move forward, we need young guys that want to take the reins. I'm 51 years old and getting tired, so I need these young guys, and I need guys that are, going to be there for the long haul. So Kyle, make sure I give you the right one. Lane Lucas is the third lieutenant. He came to us in 2015. He is a volunteer. He was a firefighter 2 volunteer. But he can, operate a lot of equipment, do a lot of things in the absence of me or one of the officers or an engineer. I have a lot of faith in him. I've kind of given him some reins, much like these two, over the last year or so, just to see how they handled it, some responsibility before I even announced it. So they've all been doing some stuff for me, and they're all flourishing. So Lane, good brother.
Thank you.
He's big. The last one is probably 10 years late. Nathan's worked very hard. He became a volunteer in 1998. He was promoted to lieutenant in 2012, and the promotion he's getting tonight probably should have come 8 to 10 years ago. He's really been, the last 5 or 6 years, the only officer I had. So it was Nathan and I. If I was out of town, the responsibility of the department was on his shoulders. If he's within an hour of this town, he's coming if I call him. I mean, he's that dedicated. He makes every training, and he does work a full-time job. He's a volunteer and a part-time employee, but he works really hard. And like I said, if I call him and ask him, if I called him and said, hey, I need you to drive to West Virginia with me tomorrow, he'd pick me up my driveway. I have no doubt. So this is well-deserved, and I'm proud to do this. He and I have been through some stuff together, some bad days and some good days, but he's always been there for me. And Nathan, congratulations.
Thank you.
Go over there.
And I just want to say, too, as well, I appreciate you guys. We have a very special police department, and we have a very special fire department here. You guys are highly respected. You both departments do a job that I would never do. I can't fathom that job. And so certainly appreciate what you guys put forth. You are hardworking, both departments. We are blessed in this village, and it's to these people and to Joey, who is behind me right here. Thank you every day in and day out. So appreciate it. Nathan, start with you. Congratulations. Thank you. Sorry. You're in here. I did have them in order, and then I messed that up. Congratulations. You look familiar. Congratulations. And make sure you grab the right one. Lane.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, guys. Shall we come in and take a picture of these guys? It is pretty short. Awesome.
Cool.
Thank you guys.
Thank you,
You guys are welcome to hang out or welcome to leave. Up to you.
I guess they're leaving.
All right, guys. Moving right along on the agenda, we have public comment up next. Delbert, I'll start with you. You know the drill. State your name.
It's Georgetown. Talking about Mike's brother. I don't know if anybody knew him, but boy, he was one of the nicest guys.
Mm.
I mean, he was awful easy to be around. Good repairman too.
Yes.
So anyway, one thing I suggested to Art one time, you know how you put the budget up there with different things going to the numbers? And one thing I suggested to Art is it'd be nice if we had something like that from you, like this project is this point. You've got it on your paper and you will read it off, but it's just kind of nice if you could see it, like these are the projects we're working on and where we're at, and this one's finished or close to finish, and I don't know, it just gives a little better idea, because you ain't got enough to do, I'm sure. That's all I got.
Thank you. All right. Good evening. I know it's not your first night here either, but state your name and
J.R. King Sullivan.
yes.
Georgetown. I have a question for you guys. How much do you guys charge when you send somebody to mow somebody's yard because they're not taking care of it?
So we assess, you mean if somebody doesn't, the weed ordinance, if they don't follow suit and we have to take care of it?
Yep.
So we assess that to taxes, correct? And typically we either, Kelly might be able to answer, do we pay an outside company or do we do it as village employees?
Usually outside.
That's what I was thinking. So we contract with an outside company to mow those weeds.
I'm just saying you guys should be held in the same responsible as they are because my road has not been paved since I know at least 2004. And I've got to keep it mowed. I've got to keep it sprayed. I'm just saying if it don't get fixed, I'm going to send you guys a bill for what it cost me. And next month I will have a bill here because it's just ridiculous that it's not getting fixed. And this is the third year I've been trying to get it fixed.
We went out and looked at that, Kelly. He lives down as
Hillcrest.
Hillcrest, as you're going out of town on the right there, going down the hill. And I know when Art was here, Art was challenged with having to go out and take a look at that. I don't know the results of that.
I can answer that. I had a contact with another individual who lives on the same road. The study that the village did through the CIP, they did an evaluation, Structure Point did an evaluation of all roads in the village. And that one came back as fair on that study that they did. We have, they're color coded. I don't have it in front of me, so I apologize. I can't quote every road, but we will start out with the worst roads first and then work our way up. How soon that'll be, I can't give that to you, but we do have a
I'm going to
list.
keep mowing the road. I'm going to, and keep it sprayed. I'm going to start sending you guys a bill, but you send other people a bill when they don't keep their stuff up and going. And it's just not the road. Along the road, everything's trashed up. It's nasty. When you first pull in, something needs done.
Have you made any complaints to our zoning officer about the housing as far as what houses you deem need to be cleaned up? Because we do have zoning.
I have mentioned before that end house that lived, but nobody cares.
If you go to our website, there's a way to specifically address, like, for example, if it was 123 Water Street, you put the address in, that comes straight to our zoning officer. And then I don't want you to say the address tonight because obviously we're on public
Right, I'm not saying
communication.
nobody's address.
Right, but there's a way to put that on the website so that you're staying out of that conversation but yet you're still providing information. Hey, can you please take a look at this address? And that will be done. So if you just go to our website and put that in.
It's just not there. It's the whole road. Because I mean, it's been patched. It's bumpy. It's
Right, but I'm saying
paved in.
specific
Right.
to zoning,
Right.
besides the road, specific to zoning. If you see something that you think needs to be cleaned up or should be governed by the village, and maybe we've not seen it or noticed it, you can put it in there. It doesn't mean that it does specifically comply the zoning, but somebody will certainly check it out. And again, that takes you out of that equation, so somebody's not saying, it's zoning is it's what it falls under. Now, the road, it's two separate issues. The one thing that we can do is, Kelly, we can send Jeremiah or one of the crews out there to take a look at it and make sure we're not missing anything from that.
Follow up on that, Mayor. I had another discussion with another gentleman today.
Yeah.
We have our own hot box now where the guys go around and do their own patching.
Patch is not going to.
I understand the long-term concern, but temporarily, the guys will make a list of everything. I'll make sure that gets put on the list to be addressed. The roadside trash was picked up about 2 weeks ago. Tim Boone, I think, is your neighbor out there. I talked to Tim, and we addressed a few issues. We put up another no outlet sign for y'all down there too, because that's a continual.
Another thing, when you guys go to repave that or fix that road needs widened because it's impossible for one car to come out and another car to come in without stopping on the highway, let traffic pass, and then there's not enough room for two vehicles to pull in and out at the same time.
I believe that probably comes down to easement issues, anything. I mean, if it's an option, it certainly can be viewed. It really just depends how much space we really have there, what can be done.
There's enough room right there because there's just,
Right, but it doesn't technically mean that we can take
We
it.
can't pave onto someone's property.
Right.
Yeah, so, We'd have to figure that out, but we will certainly take a look at it for you.
Okay, well, I'll be back next month. If nothing gets done, I will be bringing you guys a bill.
Okay, sounds
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
All right, moving along, we'll go down to general business. First item on the list is the approval of the March 28th regular session council meeting minutes. You have those in your packet on page 1. If you haven't already taken a look at those, please do. And if there's any adjustments that we need to make or any questions, please discuss. Otherwise, I will entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Kelly has properly made the motion to approve the meeting minutes. Brooklyn has seconded that motion. Tara, can we get a roll call vote?
Campbell,
Yes.
Garbett,
Yes.
Barnhart. Yes. Baki,
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you. On page 5, you will have Budget Committee meeting minutes from March 28th as well. Take a look at those. If there's somebody here from that committee that wants to discuss anything about that meeting, feel free to do so. On page 6, you will have your HR meeting minutes as well, again from March 28th. Moving right along, on page 7, next item on the list is the nuisance animal ordinance. And I believe we tabled this from last meeting, is that correct?
Yeah.
Joe? Okay, and we tabled it for many reasons.
Yeah, I have some info on that.
Okay.
Let me try to find it here. So I ran into Kevin Brown, and he has given us basically a price to, here it is. I'll hand that down. I'll let everybody get one. Andy, do you have 2 there?
I got it.
Delbert, you want one of those? Sure. So I ran into him, and what he is suggesting is, this is his price. And the second part of this was just like an example or an option. So first he says $75 to set each trap. Okay, and then $50 an animal. Now, some quotes that I've been told about was there was a place around Milford and one around Blanchester that charged $200 an animal after they do a set. One charged $250. So, yeah, an animal. So this is just an example that I'd written down. If you were to take the center of town and do 2 traps each direction, so that would be a total of 8 traps. In that theory, that's $600 to set those 8 traps in place until the job is finished. And then if we were to allow somewhere around 50 animals, that's $2,500. So combined, $2,500 plus the $600, that would be $3,100 to get rid of 50 animals. So again, that's just a theory, but that is the breakdown of his cost. In that cost, he would bait the traps, keep them, set and all that, and get rid of the animals. And then he did say that he would gladly work with us if there was a crazy amount caught, because you talk to some people and they act like you'll catch 50 in an hour, and then you get some people. So I don't know. I was going to see what you guys thought. If it's something you wanted to do, he does have, I think he said 10 traps available right away to where you could instantly get it started. So in that theory, in my opinion, we would just contract him And we would try to work on some abandoned houses or buildings or sewer or something. That's my suggestion. So that's what I found out. So you guys, what do you think?
First question that I have at least is, if we pass this ordinance, this doesn't necessarily tie us into this, right? Because this is setting the residents up to be able to trap on their own property that's what I thought we came to at the last meeting. And then this had not really addressed us. Would we have to do something separate for this is what I'm
So
trying to
this
get at.
is for, the village pays for this. This is the village to take care of it. The residents, that's not for the residents. When we pass this ordinance, or when we go through this ordinance, the residents have a little different circumstance because you can't shoot a gun, you can't do crazy things in town. So they definitely would have an option to use him. He did some contract work for different houses in the village, he said. So just a direct answer to the first question, this would be the village's cost, the village to take care of our sewers, our drainage. Or prime example, the Bailey Lumber building, they claim there's several running out of it. There's a couple abandoned houses that they see like running across the roofs and that kind of stuff. So this is just kind of a precaution for the village. So the ordinance thing, Joe can answer any of that as far as what that would be, but this would just be what the village would
Right,
do.
that's what I'm asking is, if we pass this ordinance, that doesn't necessarily mean that we're doing this piece. Is that correct, Joe?
Yes, in other words, what you would need to do is pass the ordinance and then someone make a motion to hire him in an amount not to exceed.
Right.
Or you could not pass the ordinance and hire him in an amount not to exceed. The reason you'd pass the ordinance is just to give you another level of local control.
Sure.
I can catch 25 coons in my barn in a winter or more. So 50 is probably nothing. But if you was going to do this and you felt like spending some money, I'd do it tomorrow before they start having babies.
That's just, there's technically a breeding season, as you guys probably know, or you may not, but that's exactly right. The idea would be have this done in January. That's the perfect scenario because February, March is, sometimes it's leading into April, but yeah, they're already, yeah. So one turns into six pretty quick.
Or 12.
Yeah. But I totally agree. You're right. I mean, I think any given spot you could trap way more than this, but this would give us an idea of what we can catch. This would give us an idea of what it would cost. And like he said, I told him we can't go out and trap 1,000. We can't set that money aside. We're just experimenting. And he said he understands that entirely. He would definitely work with us in the future to kind of adjust.
Did he say what he's going to do with them?
He said he was taking them to his farm in Hamersville.
We don't want to know. Because he don't want them out there either. 'Cause he's right. Everybody's got more than they want because the fur price has been down and nobody's up. So nobody's strapping like they used to. Right.
I know I used to trap. I get it.
What do you guys think? So,
So in this theory, my suggestion would be that we set a budget aside just for this. And once we get close to it, we can revisit like how they're going. I mean, he's definitely going to keep, we're going to have pretty short order how many he's catching. I think Delbert's exactly right. I think next week he'll come back and say we're out of money. So
It's kind of spitting in the wind.
you got to do something though. I mean, when the Kings start running around at 1:00 in the afternoon, it's not good.
and we're getting complaints. And I mean, I certainly, if I would think we would want to put a budget on it, but it also shows that we're willing to step up and kind of service the areas that we can service. So our sewers and, help with some of the vacant land that, we can't readily clean up or get cleaned up. I think it shows a good effort. Granted, we can't go out and catch 10,000 of these things. That's not
What happens
equitable.
is if they get too thick, they get distemper or something. And then they'll be running around during the daytime.
Mhm.
People.
Yeah.
So it's amazing they've started already.
And, this kind of lends itself to when we did the cat ordinance, and I can't even remember the exact name for it, but, we were getting complaint after complaint about stray cats and people feeding them and then reproducing. And we were able to make an agreement with the Humane Society, and we paid up to, and I think it still is, $10,000 a year, where they go out, they trap them, they, what's the word? Take them back to the shelter and spade them. Thank you. Spade them, and then they go back out and release them where they took them from, so that at least it's cutting down on the ultimate population in the long run. Now, we're not trapping and releasing them back. We're not going to fix them, but at least we have somebody that's licensed in the area to, do what they're supposed to do with it. But I think it gives us a leg to stand on when we're getting those complaints, because the question is, what are we doing about it? And if we're doing nothing, then as Delbert said, you're looking to in the future just potentially having them.
It's hard next fall when they're
Yeah.
Catch some now, spend a little money, let the people know that you're doing something, then next fall get him and his buddies in here
Mm-hmm.
and say, there they are, you can have them all.
Mm-hmm. What do you guys think?
If he was willing to work with us on the price, like 3,100, could we say 5,000, setting the traps and catching 100? I don't think 5,000 is a crazy number.
What's that mean that he gets total?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Would he, if we double, he knows he's getting 5,000, would he set the traps and not,
How is he gonna prove it?
and how's he going to prove it? That's a good question. Yeah.
Bring in the tail or something? Well, you don't want the public to hear
Take a
that.
picture. Selfie with it.
Divide, count the legs and divide by 4.
If you're saying 5,000 and you
Well,
said,
I mean, even if we just set the same amount of traps and he didn't give us a break on the traps, I'm saying, like, if he said it's a crazy amount, he'd work with us. If we said we're guaranteeing you $5,000, would he, Kelly, you may be able to call him and ask. I mean, otherwise we just pay the extra $600. I mean, 50 or 100, we're not too far off, really. I mean,
oh, so you went 10.
I'm just saying, to try to get a deal, can we negotiate and say, we'll do 100, which would be 5,000, right?
125.
He wants 125. You're saying, let's just pay him 100. In theory.
For 100 raccoons, is what I'm saying. If he's doing $50 per animal, right?
He's doing,
50 times 100 is 5,000. So if he's getting twice the amount for the animals, would he just throw us in the setting the traps?
$600.
And if he says no, he says no. I mean,
I think he'd do it. He's not hard to do.
Lee, do you see what Bink is saying?
No.
I don't either. Thank you.
okay. So
Recalculate that.
if it was 3,100 for him to set,
This was just me. That was an example.
okay, yeah.
He
right.
so the top is what he told me, $75 to set for each set that he makes, each
Right.
location. And then every time he catches an animal, he wants $50. That's paying for the bait them and to get rid of them per animal.
So there's a chance then that he could go out one night, set a trap, but not catch an animal, and we still pay $125 or 75.
That's setting the trap, and that 75 is for the rest of the trapping time frame.
Okay,
right?
so this is how I took it. So he sets a trap. Let's just use Berlin Lumber Yard, for example, the culvert right there in the intersection. He sets a trap right there. That's a one-time fee of $75. If he catches 1 or 1,000, then your numbers increase per animal. So every location is a $75 set. That is the way I took it. But if you want me to.
Every location, but not, like, so if he catches an animal, he doesn't have to reset it and we pay him another $75.
Correct.
Right? That's okay. So what I'm saying is, just to try to negotiate, I'm in real estate, so we negotiate all the time. Could we say, we're going to double that? We're not just stopping at 50, because we're going to catch 100. right? I mean, I've never caught a raccoon, so I don't know. We're going to catch 100. We'll pay you $5,000, but you throw in the setting of the traps for free, is what I'm saying.
Then I did the math on that then you're only paying him $50.
Per animal, which is
Yeah.
what we're paying him now. The setting of the traps is $600.
He's just saying waive the fee for setting
Just waive
Yeah.
the fee of setting the traps.
in order to catch more.
Am I thinking of this wrong?
I'll find out what's
But
All right,
what,
so this is what I'll do. I will call him this weekend. I will run that by him, and then I will ask him, how do we prove what, and then I'll let everyone know. How about that? I'll let everyone know the answer.
He can take one picture.
I mean, there's
Different.
plenty of ways of doing it, yeah, but,
So then do you want to make them, we have two things on the floor. We have the ordinance, and then do you want to make a motion after they deal with the ordinance on allocating the amount of money for the program? Is that how you want to do it?
well,
You gotta get his.
I need to see if he's,
Okay.
if he
I just
agrees.
thought time was important because we were talking about the breeding season.
Yes.
2 weeks from now, they're having babies.
that's kind of what I was thinking.
You might wanna
It's
go ahead.
like, I mean,
Do we approve up to $5,000 and then just go, and then just give Kelly the authorization to
That would be.
to enter into that?
what if he doesn't want to do your 50?
We don't do it.
It's better price.
Either that or you just allocate $5,000, even if he goes with that fee, you're still doing something about the problem for now, and we can see what we're looking at.
Like the 5,000 limit, how Kelly was explaining it, that would still be 88 raccoons or, groundhogs. So
Well,
even if he didn't give us a break-in price, it would still be 88 that would be gone.
And then you're also getting research for when we want to start this again, because you'll know how long it took him to get to that number, and then you'll know how many you got, and then we'll know, does $5,000 last us 2 months? Does it last us 2 days? We don't know. So it might just be advantageous to just go with it now, and then let Kelly work out the best deal he can.
Yeah.
And then we just need to know numbers and time, like how long does it take him to spend that?
All right, so then I'll make a motion to set a budget of $5,000 to go towards, I don't know how you want to say this, go towards the nuisance problem.
What's the name of the individual?
Kevin Brown.
He's properly made the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Andy Backy has seconded that motion. Tara, can we get a roll call?
Campbell,
Yes.
Garbett,
Yes.
Barnhart, yes. Baki.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Okay, now we're still back to the ordinance itself.
I do just want to, Kelly made a good point. Just remind him when you reach out to him that he can only set those traps on public property.
Yes.
Just make that clear. So, and then I would also point out to him that, it would be nice if we knew where those were, and we need to be cautious so that we don't have a child or a kid that goes up and hits it, or, he needs to be sensitive to the fact that it could be exposed to the
Well, he did ask about if his traps got stolen and all this stuff, because there will be beside a road, which is pretty uncommon for the trapper. You don't just put it right where it's in plain sight.
Well,
So,
that's what I'm saying. I think we've got to be cautious about it, even if that means putting a sign or something that says caution, danger.
Mhm.
So make sure you explain that to him, okay?
He's only doing 8 places to hide them. That's it.
And it might be a good opportunity for a Facebook post with the comments.
Letting
turned.
people know. Or letting them know to be cautious if they see them.
Right, but turning off comment. Yeah, so.
What about the ordinance?
Yeah, we were back at the ordinance. So Kelly, can you read this ordinance by title?
let's see.
Page
Where are we at?
7.
An ordinance to establish procedures to and regulate the trapping of nuisance raccoons and groundhogs in the village of Georgetown, Ohio.
All right. Discussion.
I have, so I'd had some homeowners reach out, maybe Joe, you can hit on this a little bit. They were wanting suggestions, since you can't shoot a gun in town, you can't, do a lot of things in town. Is there any suggestions that they can do other than pay somebody like this guy? Like, is there anything that we're not thinking about?
I wish I was an expert on that and I could tell you, but I don't know.
I know you can't
I
turn a
will-
blind eye and just
Yeah.
grab a 22 short.
I would
and
suggest
go to
that they
town.
reach out to ODNR, the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. I know because when I was researching for your ordinance, they have, they have information they can provide on ways to attract them and catch them and things like that. So I'm just not educated enough to know the best way to trap that it doesn't involve discharging a firearm. I would say.
Because like the fly bait with Coke, it's probably not a good idea. for
Right. And
cats
I think most people would say, well, that would be the easiest way to get them, but Rob will come after you if you do. And so I just don't know the answer.
So reach out to ODNR.
I know their website has some information because I saw it, and I know they have a number you can also call.
Could landowners put them in is there a cage in town that they could put them in, somebody could?
No.
He's saying no.
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 Okay.
We don't want to build.
don't want to be responsible.
Sorry. I did have a question about section 18.
Section 18.
Yeah, if we can't, and I thought there was somewhere in here that it said, and I'm failing to find it right now, that I know you can't discharge a firearm in the village, but it said that in here, I thought it said somewhere where you could use a silenced firearm. And then in section 18, it says it shall be unlawful to fail to euthanize or release on site. But if you're going to trap it and then release it on site, why even bother trapping it? So if it provides you're supposed to euthanize it, but we can't euthanize it. So what do we do with that? What does it mean?
As long as you don't do it in Village of Georgetown, you can get permission from the Division of Wildlife to.
If it's
Someplace else.
deemed a nuisance animal or it's a threat, then it can be put down, but the problem lies, you can't do it in this town. So, and then according to the laws in Ohio, if you trap one on your property, you can't rehome it. I can't take it to Delbert's house. So with that being said, that's the other part of it. We're passing something just inside the village, but if it's outside, then there's several options you can do.
I would strongly suggest if people have questions on the best ways to do it, that you look at that website and reach out to ODNR. They do have some good resources on how to do it, or contact this individual that we're reaching out to, who also probably has some ideas on the best ways to do it that complies with all the regulations.
And I'm sure that it would probably tie in hand. He'll find a couple problem areas, and that should help out some household problems as well, just in the same, culvert or sewer or something like that.
And then also, I mean, too, in those areas, as people get familiar with him during this and seeing this is something that if the particular landowner is having an issue on their property, they could contract with him as well. So he can be an option for them too.
Right.
Okay.
If one of these neighbors catch one of these coons, one of these live traps, when you go to get that handle and pick it up, that coon is snapping at that. I can just see people going, what do I do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it'd probably be better for them to contract with somebody licensed like him and stay away from it by all means. Okay. All right. Any other discussion on this ordinance? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve.
Andy has made the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Brooklyn has seconded that motion. Tara?
Campbell.
Yes.
Garbett.
Yes.
Barnhart. Yes. Baki.
Yes.
Motion passes.
What ordinance?
Ordinance 1366.
66?
Yes.
Is that 5.6 or 6.6?
6.6.
1366.
All right, thank you. On page 12, there is a motion to purchase some equipment for the fire department. Joey, would you like to let us know?
Sure. If you remember back, excuse me, last year, we applied for 3 grants through the Assistance to Firefighter Grant, it's through FEMA. We were awarded one of those 3 in the amount of just over $90,000. It is a matching grant, so the village is on the hook for 5% match. So it's a little over $4,000. These are to upgrade our extrication tools from, hydraulics and gasoline motors to battery operated tools, which is the thing of the future. I did get 4 quotes from, companies that'll supply these, and 3 of them were the big manufacturers. And then there was another company that supplied a quote that, quite honestly, I've never heard of their tools. So I didn't really want to go that route. The other 3 were really competitive. The thing is, being the fire chief, that I always take into consideration is what are our neighbors using? The county fire chiefs got together, and this is something we've worked on. For instance, every department in the county except one uses the same self-contained breathing apparatus, which means if we go on a large fire to Mount Orb or Russellville or Hamersville, we're all using the same breathing apparatus. If a fireman gets in trouble, you can buddy breathe and get yourself out. The same with extrication tools. If the majority of the departments are running the same tools, we get to a large scale bus accident or some kind of mass casualty incident, a tornado comes through and we're extricating people out of their homes. We're all running the same tools. We're all experienced with the same tools. We're running the same batteries. Took that stuff into consideration, so that kind of narrowed down to 2 manufacturers. And so we went up, and I had a committee, and they went up and they demoed the tools. They went to the one company came here because they're manufactured in Pennsylvania. So they came here and demoed the tools. The other company that I want to buy from they're manufactured in Dayton. So the manufacturing facilities in an industrial park, and then Howe Rescue, which is a company that sells them, is directly across the road. So it was kind of nice. The other thing I liked about Howe Rescue was they're in Dayton. So they're an hour and a half away. A tool breaks, I got it in the contract with them that if a tool breaks, that they'll have us a loaner tool here within 24 hours. So if we break one of their tools on a job, we're not out of compliance or running without that tool for 3 or 4 days. I can either drive to Dayton or they can deliver it to me. Their tools are state of the art, and they're willing. Part of the deal was they're going to come out on 2 different occasions and do like a training scenario. So we'll go to the junkyard and cut cars all day. They've got a couple experts, and part of their business line is they go out and teach auto extrication and mass casualty incidents. They're actually, guys off of heavy rescues from places like New York, Cincinnati, Columbus, and that's what they do. So I was able to convince them to throw 2 of those classes in on it. So we'll get some experience cutting school buses and things like that you may not. So I've got the bids right here in front of me. If anybody's interested, 2 of them were right there together, the 2 that I wanted to choose from. I sit here and say I wanted to choose from. I let the committee make that decision, and then I kind of finalized it. A lot of the young guys who are going to be using the tools, I wanted them to run them instead of myself. I'm going to be standing out there telling them what to cut. They're going to want to be the ones using them. So the Howe Rescue was the company that they chose, and I supported that decision that they made. And if you guys have any questions, the quotes are all right here. So basically I think it was $95,620. We'll have to pay about a little over $4,000 of that. So we'll get $92,000 worth of extrication equipment free. So, well, we all pay taxes. It's not free, but it's not coming out of our budget. So
That's very true.
so
Any questions for Chief Rocky? All right. If not, Kelly, would you read this resolution by title?
Resolution authorizing the acting administrator to enter into agreement for the purchase of extrication equipment equipment from Howe Rescue Services.
Any discussion? If not, I will entertain a motion. Bink has made a motion to approve this resolution. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Kelly Campbell. Tara?
Campbell,
Yes.
Garbett,
Yes.
Barnhart. Yes. Baki.
Yes.
Motion passes, and that's
Resolution 1378.
1378. All right, thank you. All right, moving right along. Next item on the list is item F, which is a discussion around the committee structure and council procedure. Bink, I know we tabled this last month and you have been working on it, so I'm going to come directly to you first.
Joe and myself met and discussed it at length, and we kind of came up with a plan, and we have the resolution here, so if everyone would like to look over it, that we can discuss it more knowledgeably.
The one that I just circulated has some minor changes from the one the clerk left in front of you. Go ahead, I'll let you finish, sorry.
Has everybody had a chance to read at least the first one? And then Joe passed out one with some minor changes.
Yeah. You want me to summarize them real quick?
Sure, please.
So just so you know, I met with Councilmember Garbett and we went through this. And this just follows up the discussion you had at your last meeting. And really, if you look at section 1, I think maybe you should address them one at a time, like section 1, then section 2. But section 1 does what you had talked about, which would abolish the individual committees, except for, and then in B, it says except for the budget committee. Then he brought to my attention that the historic sign committee should remain in place, which was previously was kind of a subset of the CDC. So that's there, although he made a change that it will only be one council member, well, a minimum of one council member and 4 residents that would serve on that. And then it'll stay the same as it is now. The mayor makes the appointments, council approves. And then also the concept is that each of those areas that were abolished as a committee will now have what's known as a council representative. And at work sessions, they'll be responsible for checking in those areas and seeing if there's anything that needs to be brought to the work session in those designated areas. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah. If we want to put this out there, the reasoning that we had started discussing this is one, my first thought was that Ohio Municipal League training that I went to, whenever we're having these committees that are 3-person committees, we are the only time that we can discuss any business pertaining to any of the business of that committee is in committee. If I am on a committee with Andy and I call him to talk about something, we're automatically violating the Sunshine Law and Open Meetings Act. So that protects us against that. And I feel that it will allow us to get more ideas in the room, more discussion about these resolutions and ordinances that we're going to bring to council eventually. So we might as well talk about them as a whole.
And then Joe, section 2 is about timing, I believe.
Section 2 is the concept that was addressed that you would still have 2 meetings a month. One would be known as a work session, and the second would be known as a business meeting. Doesn't mean that you can't do business at the work session, but it would be dissuaded. And the work session would be primarily designed to essentially work through legislation and work through the items that the individual representatives bring to those meetings. Like tonight, you could have had the discussion about the trapping of animals at that work session and kind of worked through pricing so that the legislation's ready at your business meeting. One significant change that has been proposed is that because it would be a work session, that first meeting of the month, that meeting should start at 6 instead of 7. to allow a little additional time for more discussion versus just council action. And again, if you were to only have one meeting in a month, like go on a summer schedule, it accounts for that as well. The other thing is the work session would not be live streamed, so we wouldn't be constantly filming, moving around, worrying about those things. It would be more of a discussion back and forth, kind of like a work session. And again, it would be not designed for votes unless council put a vote on their agenda. I'll go ahead and do 3 and 4 because they kind of go with it. 3, and I addressed this with the new clerk of council as well. It basically, we want to try to promote getting this agenda and packet out earlier for the public to see. So the idea would be that all items need to go to the clerk by Monday so that she can get the packets out within 48 hours at a minimum of the meetings. And then if an item came up after Monday for a Thursday meeting, you'd need to move to amend the agenda to add those items. That way the public has a pretty good idea on Tuesday what's going to be heard at your council meeting, or even Wednesday morning at the latest. But that's the goal there. And I think that, yeah, that's both of those. So those are the.
Question on that. Is that for both council meetings now, or is this
Yes.
section 3 just for the
It's for
work
all
session?
meetings. Does it only say one?
Nah, just.
Oh, okay. Yeah, those would apply to all council meetings. And I can tell you that it just, and Tara can talk about this if she wants, but I think what happens is things start to get rushed at the very end, and that results in packets not coming out till the day before a meeting, or even sometimes the day of the meeting. And it doesn't allow the public the opportunity, especially if something's an emergency, to really digest it. This would ensure that. And again, the goal would be that, once we start this, it'll become a habit. And you'll know that on Mondays, you have to have everything to the clerk. That gives her time as well to get the packet organized, less room for mistake and error, and things just aren't rushed, quite frankly.
What if there's something last minute or something happens? I mean, are we cutting our own legs
No.
off here where
So,
somebody could hold
yeah,
us?
and that's a good point. You can always, at the beginning of a meeting, as any regular meeting, which these are regular meetings, you can always move to make a motion to add something to the agenda. Just like tonight, if you decide to move forward with this ordinance, we'll do a motion to add this ordinance to the agenda and vote on it. And I will tell you, it would be unrealistic to say you're never going to do business at a work session, because it happens. I can assure you, Greg will have spending issues that he needs to have done. We might have a pull down or a transformer that needs replaced. I've seen that happen in Georgetown. Or something could occur where someone comes in and says, I didn't realize there was a deadline, but we need to get this done. They're asking for something. So the goal would be, though, to kind of push legislation to the business meeting and use the work session as more of a vetting session and kind of a discussion, if you will. I do think it's fair, and Councilman Garbutt can speak up if he would like to, but I think the goal is that it would allow us to kind of have a preview at the first meeting of what's coming for a vote at the second. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think, because what we do in the committees is there's one committee meeting a month. If something happens and it's canceled, then like this nuisance animal control should have been passed last year, and we wouldn't be in the situation that we're in. So if we have opportunity to discuss it as a whole rather than a committee discussing it, then I think that, and it's not the fault of the committee persons or the committees that have been in place. I think it's just the structure that we have. And so it gives us more opportunity to discuss, get all the ideas out in the room. What, does this, like the event planning situation, we have to revise that now. And so I think that it will help us to be all on the same page as well.
That was going to be a point I was going to make. We had 5 applications for events this evening. And with the current resolution and the policy, it goes before me first, and then I refer it to committee for approval. Where is that going to put us in the near future? we're going
Well,
to go back and change the policy.
I believe the packet says that it has to be 30 days in advance. So we should have a work session before that 30 days.
But it says in the policy that it goes to the committee. The committee's going to be dissolved.
Is that in here as well?
Yeah, so that's a good point. We talked about this, but we didn't include it. We could put a provision in this piece of legislation. That's why I brought my laptop tonight to address any changes you come up with. We could put a provision in this ordinance that says any requirement that was to be handled by a committee in legislation will now be handled by the full council. That's one way to address it, because we don't know what ordinances are out there that could have been passed before I was here, certainly before some of, you were here, and Kelly might be the only person that remembers what's out there,
A
but
lot happened. while-
yes. So we could put a catch-all in there. I think that's actually a good idea. So I'll add that in if you would like. And obviously we'd want to get input on anything else if you decide to pursue this tonight. It's not required, but I think that's one of the goals.
And what approval of those type of events, would that that's not we just approved them before just with a committee vote.
Yeah.
The ones we did earlier, we could approve those, and could we approve those in a work session?
If you decided to, you
Okay,
could, yes.
I definitely think this is a good structure going forward as far as just revamping the committees. And as I mentioned previously, we attempted to do work sessions, not do away with committees, but do work sessions last year, I believe it was. And they were valuable, but it was just it didn't work because of the personalities and the drama that was going on at that time. So I definitely think this is a very doable structure. I do have a little bit of concern about taking the 2 meetings and just making one a work session. I almost think that you're going to 90% of the time disobey your own rule in here of not doing business during a work session, because it just seems like each meeting we have legislation. I almost think it would be more valuable to add that 3rd meeting that's separately a work session, that from the start is a work session, and we hold true to not having legislation through that. So we're not, again, disobeying our own rules. But also, you're also saying not to live stream the work sessions. I'm on both sides of the fence on that. I understand the value in not doing it. I also understand that, that people do watch the committee meetings and do look for that information. So I think that needs to be weighed out as well. But I think my main concern is taking our 2 meetings and just making one a true meeting. I don't think we'll ever hold true to that, unfortunately. So do we really want to do 3 meetings?
Can we ask Joe, I know you have other municipalities that do this, how do they handle it? Are they able to hold pretty true to that? To not conducting, again, Joe's saying that we don't make that a rule, right?
I don't think it would be practical to say you'll never do any business at a work session. The mayor's right about that. There's always going to be things. So that does give the question of whether you want it.
So does it look, I guess in my mind, does it look different if you're still passing a business? Are you really trying to set a different example if the meeting still looks the same and you show up and you pass legislation and then you have roundtable discussion, or what? I know it's not called roundtable, but that's what it's going to look like. Is it better to make the look different and feel different, and then you really feel okay about making some of these changes?
What do you think, though, having a work session, unless it's an emergency, to your point, if there's a spending issue or something that you've got to get done at that meeting, that's something that you can table to a business, to the actual business meeting? And I guess we would have to just adhere to, unless this is deemed something is emergent that's right now.
You're going to have that.
It's going to come up. I
that's
don't
the thing.
disagree, because I know it'll come up, but I think if you're able to separate that out, then that potentially has some merit to doing that. And then, to the point of, if we work some of this stuff out when we come into our business meeting, when we're like discussing an ordinance now, everybody's in agreement. We're going to vote on this at the next meeting, and it's pretty
It
cut.
makes that easier.
Yeah.
I mean, a work session is where that really clears the mud and you can streamline these meetings going forward, which is nice. And then, we're live streaming them and we're not looking like we're here till midnight because we can't decide on something. So the work session has true value for that.
I
It's
think
just,
the other thing I would say to that is by getting more council members in the room with some of these different committees, you get some different perspectives and some different ideas that you may not get otherwise, because if everybody has 2 committee meetings plus these, it's hard to. You have input on a certain area, or maybe you've got some information you'd like to share. Sometimes I can get kind of lost in the wind with things. So I think that'd be a great asset in some ways, is to get some additional input on some of these committees, as well. And so I think having a work session would be a good thing.
Do you allow for public comment at a work session?
So our charter actually requires that at every public meeting, we have public forum. So yes, there would still be.
Is it something to where you could definitely do the work session, do the 2 meetings a month, and then if it come up to where it looks like we're gonna have to add a third or something, you could always do that later, right?
You can always add meetings. Yes.
Like, for example, why I like the idea more than anything is I, like most of you guys, stay pretty busy and I have a lot of things going on. And I've been trying to get with Kevin Brown for 3 weeks. So in one way, it's almost like we have an extra couple weeks to where we're not stressed on making a vote on that, or it's giving me a little bit more time. So that part I do really like, because I think we all stay extremely busy. So,
I guess one other thing I'll just throw out there is if you hate it after you start it, you can go back. I'll just throw that out there. I mean, but change, it's, I wouldn't say difficult. I guess it's just, it takes an adjustment period. But I think there's a fairness to it that if you do get into this and find that it doesn't work, I think, you could always revise it or tweak it. I think the mayor's right, though. You're now cramming how many committee meetings into 2 meetings a month. So I think that's something you just need to keep in mind.
yeah, but I also think you could, I don't know, set aside, I think the good thing about a work session is you would be able to devote all 6 or 7 or 8 opinions on each committee problem, or, when we're trying to work out something. So I almost feel like in some ways it would get handled faster and it would be more efficient instead of looking at it that you're going to have, because didn't you say that every work session, you're going to have to come up with an agenda for that session, right? So you would know exactly what you were doing.
Yes, the Monday before that meeting.
And that agenda would be set by everyone in this room. So everybody would have to adhere to that.
I would say the charter is clear. The mayor sets the agenda, but obviously you'd be getting the
Copies.
information to the mayor
right,
and the clerk, and they'd be
right.
going through it.
I mean, your input is going to be what's needed for this agenda by all means.
Yeah.
Well, I think when we talked about this, we said that there would be representatives. Like, there would be a representative who would cover the items that would have been covered under the Community Development Committee. They would bring an agenda to you to be put on or an item to be put on the agenda. Same thing with HR, same thing with utilities. So everything that we have on that agenda would then be pertaining to the same items. But then rather than just 3 people discussing it as a committee, we've got the whole council and the mayor, and you're usually at every meeting anyway, but but we would have, then we have Joe in the room most of the time with us if we need him, and we can always bounce things off him, or at least get to him and get resolution to that. So, I mean, that's just what I think. I think whatever it looks like at the end of the day, I think it would be best, especially from what I learned at that Ohio Municipal League training, to get away from the committee system that we have now.
What do you guys think about the live streaming if we were to go with this? This is where you guys talk.
At the end of the day, it's a public meeting, and if we're having public comment, then I don't know what the difference would be in, honestly, live streaming it. I mean, it's just my personal opinion on it. If you're going to allow people, if you're going to say, hey, this is what's going on at the meeting, if you have an issue that way, they can see it or go back and watch it, I mean, it's not any different than most of our committee meetings now, so.
Yeah, that would be my fear too, is if you still have the ability to pass legislation during a meeting and you're not live streaming it, I think you guys might take a lot of flack for that. So keep that in mind.
I think you're right. Just if there was an emergency coming up, you better be safe than sorry. And that way we're live streamed.
And two, people really do watch the committee meetings as well. So, I mean, it's a double-edged sword, but. Okay, additional comments here?
So,
What do we want to change? Joe's going to do a live,
I'm making the changes as you talk, so. Are we gonna live stream it?
are we live streaming or not? If,
That would be my opinion.
I think that makes sense.
To continue that?
Yeah, to continue to live stream. Are we sticking with trying it with 2 meetings and not 3?
I would think we would try with two. Jay says, I mean, you can always add a third meeting.
And then,
With the understanding of, unless there's emergency business, our firm, we're gonna be very detailed to our agenda, what's on there. And in that way, that will streamline our business meetings a lot.
So Kelly, that's going to be a change for office as well, that we'll have to really communicate to try and get them to adhere to, like Greg with budget when we do, I am bad with words tonight. When we move money, appropriations, that they know that we're trying to move all actual things to the second meeting of the month, right? All legislation. Doesn't mean it can't happen.
That was one of the questions that came up today was emergency supplemental appropriations.
they can still come.
But and that was the question we came up with, but if you can still call it, then it's not going to be an issue.
All right, so what are we thinking for the budget committee meetings?
Yeah.
That would stay the same under this.
As in the same committee with the same people on the committee? The same amount of people, I guess I should say?
At the moment, unless you want to change that.
Okay.
That's something I guess you could change.
And then Bink, what was you saying about the sign committee again? You were suggesting 1 council member,
Minimum.
a minimum of 1?
Right, have 5 members of that committee with a minimum of 1 being a council member.
How many's on it now?
Right now, it's the CDC, and then there are 2 residents who are on it.
Right now, we're meeting, the budget is meeting, when is the budget meeting? Anybody remember?
4th Thursday
4th Thursday.
at 6.
So Joe and I were just talking about the budget committee and the importance of keeping that separate. Just thinking that through.
As I think you're going down that path too, aren't you, Kelly?
Yeah.
It's whether you want to keep it or not. I mean, I just think the budget is very specialized, so it's a question of,
It is, but at the same time, it overlaps. We were just having this conversation with the HR committee, and it's like, you can be looking at pay increases in HR committee, but then I guess technically you got to take it the budget so they can say yes, and then you come to council. So it's kind of it's really not, I mean, that's what we assume. Nobody's ever really said, this is exactly how you do it. We kind of made our own
trail as we've come along with it. So is it, and everything heavily gets debated with council anyway. I mean, it's a lot to learn though in budget. It's a lot to absorb. But we do have a new council.
So your budget's typically an hour long. You can look at it this way. You can look at it that your primary start of your work session will start with a budget. Okay, and then, like, let's just use it for example, Thursdays or January's first meeting is budget and HR. February's will be budget and, hopefully once all this gets going, there's not a whole lot of changes and redone. So you could always start with something like that because we're used to council meetings lasting several hours and most of us are all on a 5, 6, and 7 o'clock committee. So we're here till 4 or 5 hours anyway. But I agree, budget is should be the main, one of the main ones.
Well, so much of it overlaps anyway.
Yes.
that I'm not so sure it doesn't make sense to just include it.
Yeah.
and Do away with the committee. I could get comfortable with that, but it's not my decision.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Budget just not being.
Abolishing it as well.
Yeah.
Well, I think essentially you run into the same thing. Then whoever's on the budget committee can't discuss it with anyone else at any point except for within a budget meeting. Unless we change the format of that committee. If that committee was a 5-person,
Right.
but then, I mean, it might as well be a 6-person, which is all of us. So,
I would say incorporate it, take it out, do away with the budget and make it a part of the work session.
I would agree. Again, if we're changing stuff, we can give it a shot, see what works and what doesn't. If we need to tweak it down the road and go back to a more traditional format like we have now, you can always do that. But to your point, Mayor, there's a lot of decisions that we have to look at a budget to make those decisions. So it kind of would be counterproductive, I think, to have that separate.
You will still then have a council person designated to be that representative too. So they can
Yep.
work on that. So, okay, I changed that in this version.
All right, we're keeping with the 2 meetings. Everybody okay with a 6 o'clock start time on the 1? That's a work session. Delbert, add that to your calendar. That's a change for you.
Can I make it 6? Probably not.
All right, what else in this, guys? Hit on my points. What do you guys have? We really need to make a strong effort to adhere to
The wishes of having the packet, nothing added to the packet after Monday. So we'd want to really if we're going to make these changes, let's get behind them. I don't want to see last minute additions unless it's absolutely necessary. What do you guys think?
is it close of business Monday or is it
Good question.
noon on Monday? What do we want to firm that up or
I would ask the clerk what she prefers.
what would you prefer?
close of business is fine.
Close of business. All right.
All right. Anything else?
So we're saying that every committee is done away with but the sign committee. Is that what we're saying?
Are there any other material changes you want to make? Because what I'm inclined to do is while you go through roundtable, Kelly's going to go grab copies and then we can distribute them before we vote, so everyone can see it. It's not good to vote on something you don't have in front of you. So, does that work? Any other changes that anyone wants? Okay, I'll email it to Kelly.
And we'll come back to that before the end of the meeting. All right. So back to the agenda. On page 15, you will see the payment register.
Trying to get there now. I think it's a little short, abbreviated, as you will see for this month. And that's simply because our fiscal officer is having some major computer issues this week and is waiting for an upgrade. So I think he'll supply more information at the next meeting. But if there are any questions on what's in front of you, we will try and answer. Okay. Page 16 is Mayor's Court report. Any questions there? Chief Freeland, anything to add?
You can see the numbers are down a little bit, but you all are very aware that we have been short-staffed a good part of this year. So we just finally got to full staffing last week. So hopefully that'll change here.
And then Rob, continuing on page 18, I see you have your report in here.
Yes, as you can see, March was actually, we were down a little bit on activity. You see there was 351 different types of calls for service. There were 87 different types of offenses that we dealt with in March. But just a few things that I wanted to cover. On our Facebook page, there's actually a photo, some surveillance photo of this, but there was a couple that was cutting their grass late last month. While they were in the backyard mowing, an SUV pulled up outside and within about 20 seconds stole about $500 worth of equipment. They had, some hand tools, some more mowing equipment, things like that were in the front yard. And watching the video, this wasn't their first rodeo. They knew what they were doing. They jumped out of the car, grabbed it, and they were gone. So if anybody can take the time to take a look at our Facebook page, and if they can help us locate the owner of that vehicle, that would be fantastic. And unfortunately, I talked a little bit about this last month, but as you saw at the last meeting, Sergeant Pendleton was given the promotion of not only sergeant, but detective. He's been handling our what's called ICAC, where basically every time something's flagged on the internet, he gets an email about it. He received 2 more of those last month that he's currently investigating. And if you could look in our offenses from last month, that they reflect those offenses as well that he's investigating. Our 2024 continued professional training, we are required again this year to do 24 hours. We are responsible for 16 hours of that. OPAA got back with me with the classes that we had chose on our Police One Academy. They approved all 16 hours of the classes that we chose. Those have been rolled out to the officers, and they are starting to begin to get those done. They have up until the end of this year to get those completed. However, we are still waiting for the 8 hours from the state. They have not posted anything on their website for the 8 hours that they are going to provide. But hopefully we can have ours knocked out by the time that happens. Lexapol, our policy manual is completed and has been reviewed by all the officers. They've all signed off saying that they have read it. With that being said, the daily training bulletins have now started rolling out to the officers. Rather than simply reviewing the policies over and over again, the trainings give the officers a possible scenario that they may face while in their employment. This is followed by a Q&A where the officer must decide how the policy will dictate the outcome of the scenario. I've done several of these myself. I think the way that they present it, it definitely makes the policy stick in your brain a little better. Sometimes that you read through a policy manual and you kind of go numb after a while. But there's now as it rolls on, as time goes on, we can reduce that rather than it being daily. We can do like a couple a week or something like that. But right now it's every day. The speed sign we got the donations for. We did receive that. We are waiting for some additional mounts because I'm just going to have the mounts put in the hot spots throughout town, so that way we can easily move the sign when we need to. But I wanted to take this opportunity again to thank Jay Anderson with Callum Insurance, Ron Callum with Ron's Realty, John Woods Insurance, Cherry Street Eatery, and the Georgetown Marble and Granite for their donations for that sign. And that's all I have. One,
What do they call?
$4,000.
All right. Thank you, Chief Raylan. On page 21, you will see the zoning report from Mike Click in there. Any questions on that? All right. If not, we will move right along to our roundtable. And Andy, I will start with you.
I don't have too much. Congratulations to our new firefighters on their promotions. It's good for the department. And I know we are still working on some infrastructure grants and trying to get some of that stuff accomplished. I know the one, Kelly Jones, that we had talked about that you thought maybe the two for the one time, that deadline was April 8th. So hopefully we'll hear something back on those soon to start fixing some of this stuff. So other than that, that's all I have.
I have a couple of things to share, being interested in economic development. The Brown County Chamber of Commerce is getting ready to have an event on, I believe it's April 23rd, from 12 to 1. It's a luncheon at the Brown County Chamber of Commerce. And we would, of course, love to have more small businesses in Georgetown. It's put on by the Ohio Small Business Development Center. They'll be there doing some training and giving some information on how to get some no-cost resources and stuff for small businesses. So just want to make that available to people. Even if you already have a small business and you need some help, that they can really help you in growing your business. And then also coming up here on April 27th, I know Georgetown Schools is putting on a community day, and so they have that every year. It's Saturday, April 27th, from 11 to 3. There's going to be all kinds of vendors. There's going to be all kinds of, I know we'll be there with the bounce houses and different games and stuff like that. So just invite everyone out to that. I know they're giving away a lot of different things. And so if any businesses would like to get involved in that, they have, they're accepting monetary donations, prizes, and raffle items for that event. So if you need any information about that, get in touch with me, or you can get in touch with the Georgetown Schools and they'll get you pointed in the right direction. That's all I have.
Fantastic. Thank you. Kelly Campbell.
I just wanted to hit on what Andy said. I know a lot of those guys personally that got promotion today. So job well done. We appreciate it. And that's all I have.
Nothing. All right. Kelly Jones.
Follow up on what Andy touched on. We did meet the deadline, April the 8th, on 2 applications through the Ohio Senate capital budget. This would be, we applied for it this year. It'll be for next year. We applied for $650,000 for the lift station, and we also applied for another $1 million for the I&I infrastructure. We had previously applied for an additional $1 million on the I&I, so hopefully we'll get one, maybe both. And you may have already had some complaints, but we are looking at another power outage. May the 16th through the 17th. That'll be approximately a 4 to 6 hour outage. It's kind of a follow-up to one of our last ones. We had to shut down one of the main transformers to add oil. Now they have to do further testing. And we know it's an inconvenience, but we're trying to keep the lights on for our residents. So it's one of those evils we have to do occasionally. So bear with us. Hopefully, if everything goes smooth, it'll be closer to 4 hours than the 6 hours. So that's all I have.
All right. Thank you. Chief Rocky. Solicitor.
No, I don't have anything other than I'll work with everyone to try to make sure that we're keeping in line. I know Tara's been really good about getting on me about keeping things on task. So I know that she will, and we'll get everything on the agenda, and hopefully we can remind everyone Maybe even send out an email first couple weeks saying, don't forget any items need to get to her.
Mayor, I do have something. I was contacted by the EJ Fed Fire District, and they were asking for a copy of their contract, 2024 contract, and I could have swore we approved that. And I had Greg look back through the minutes and the meetings, and we can't find it. Is there some other avenue we can, Joe, do you keep those resolutions? I don't know. He looked for the resolution. He said he couldn't find it, so.
Which one was it?
It should be EJ Fed. There should be 4 total.
We typically do those as a housekeeping item every year.
Yeah,
Well, we had one that they postponed it for a reason. What,
that was Lewis.
that was Lewis. Okay.
If you want after the meeting, I'll take a look and see. if
Okay,
I've got it.
perfect. Yeah. If
Because
not,
typically they do run them through me.
okay, perfect.
I did have one other item just to put on your radar. At the next meeting, I'll be addressing with you a couple nuisance properties that we want to work with the land bank to help do some property building demolitions on properties that we've declared a nuisance before. So I'll be seeking authorization from you to partner with the land bank and move forward on those. And I've already talked to Mike in enforcement, and he's getting that information together. So that'll be coming to you in a meeting soon. The only thing I'd remind you is if you do want to take up the new ordinance regarding committees, we just need a motion for someone to amend the agenda to include it. And then you can move forward with debating it and voting.
All right, so Joe did put that in front of you guys. If that's something you want to discuss, we do need that amendment.
I'll make a motion to amend. I'll second.
Bink has properly made the motion with Kelly Campbell seconding. Tara, roll call.
Campbell,
Yes.
Garbett,
Yes.
Barnhart,
Yes.
Baki,
Yes.
Motion passes. All right, Kelly.
Can you read this ordinance by title?
An ordinance revising committees and establishing procedures for village council meetings and declaring an emergency.
Discussion.
I guess the one thing we didn't say, so we'll start this from May going forward then.
We're effective immediately.
Right, so, okay,
so May, because we're in our first meeting of the month.
right.
Is that doable? I don't know if that's doable, that puts us behind. Do we do a special work session?
It just means that your next meeting will be a business meeting like normal. And then you'll start your first quote work session in May.
Because we had, like tonight, we had a CDC meeting, we didn't have a utility meeting. And I don't know, I
That's up
was
to you.
on till on, so I need to.
Yeah, you can schedule one.
I think you should schedule a special one because that first meeting, no matter what, is going to be a lot of different avenues that we need to go down. And then if we wait until the first meeting in May, then that means we're not really going to get anything accomplished other than our goals, in theory. I don't know, my opinion.
Makes sense.
So should we really talk about this ordinance first and then talk about if we want to schedule something?
Yeah.
Because did we make a motion?
To
No.
amend it?
We just made,
We did make the motion to amend it.
That's it.
and you read it. So then we would entertain a motion to approve this ordinance as written.
I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance as written.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Andy Baki has properly made the motion for this ordinance with Bink seconding. Tara, can you do a roll call?
Campbell,
Yes.
Garbett,
Yes.
Barnhart. Yes. Baki,
Yes.
Motion passes. And then, so we've completely done away with the committees. And we will be starting a new cadence of our meetings in May, meaning the first meeting will start at 6 PM. And it will be a work session as defined in this ordinance. The second meeting of the month, so the fourth Thursday of the month, will be the actual business meeting. Both of those will be televised or live streamed, if you will. So that is a pretty big change. The second meeting will start at 7 PM. So we've got to remember 6 PM and 7 PM. First meeting is 6 PM, second meeting is 7 PM. Ordinance number All right, that's a big change. Okay, so then do we want to come back around and discuss kind of a catch-up session to really kick us off strong for that first meeting of the month? Meaning sometime this month, let's sit down and hash out our goals.
Looking at dates. I know it puts everybody in an additional meeting up front, but I think eventually it will pay off. I mean, anyone okay with the next Thursday? Just next Thursday? I mean, I know it's 3 in a row for us, but it'll establish us, prepare us for the following week.
I'm good.
Do you want to do 6 or do you want to do 7 that day? Since it's going to be deemed a work session.
Do
It's like
6, yeah.
That's a special
Meeting then?
Yeah, we'll have to advertise it. So since that's a special meeting, we need to advertise it and we'll need to only be able to address topics, since it's a special meeting, that are on the agenda.
So we'll have to be very careful about dissecting that agenda.
Yeah, so we just need to make sure if there's anything you want to address at that work session, that won't be normal, but for this particular one, since it's special, we need to include it on the agenda. So I would be thinking of like a couple really good topics that you want to start working on. Get those to the clerk. They can be broad. Yeah, they can be broad, but
I'll work with you guys to get this. All right, so 4/18 is when we're looking
What
at
time?
for our first work session. And that's technically a special meeting.
what time do you want to do that?
And what time are we doing it?
6.
6 PM.
Everyone okay with that? I mean, I know we don't have Amber and Mike here with us, but we'll just see if they're able.
Okay. All right, so 4/18, special meeting.
This will be live stream, correct?
Okay, all right. Any additional business that we need to discuss this evening?
Can I get the hours on that community event again?
Yeah.
Got the day, I see the hours.
I think it's 11 to 3. Just a second.
It's 11 to 3.
Good job.
Thank you.
All right, next regular council meeting is on April 25th at 7 PM. However, we will have a special meeting that will be our first work session on 4/18 at 6 PM. If there is no further business to discuss, I will absolutely entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Andy has made that motion.
I'll second.
Kelly Campbell has seconded that. Tara, roll call.
Campbell.
Yes.
Garbett.
Yes.
Barnhart. Yes. Baki.
Yes.
Motion passes. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.